The moment that really hit me wasn't an official announcement. It was a crowd reaction. A few days ago, another concert clip of Atif Aslam started circulating again, and the strange thing is, people weren't just singing along. They were grieving something. Read the comments carefully and you'll notice it immediately. Bollywood doesn't sound the same anymore. We miss this era. Why did they stop using him? And honestly, that question is bigger than music now. Because I don't think the real reason we barely hear Atif Aslam in Bollywood anymore is as simple as politics, bans, or industry shifts. I think his disappearance exposed something uncomfortable about modern entertainment itself. The industry moved toward safer voices, right when audiences were craving emotional danger. And that contradiction changed everything. If you're new to Arijit Singh's story, subscribe. I post every day. Because this story isn't really about one singer disappearing. It's about what happens when industries become afraid of emotional unpredictability, even when audiences secretly miss it. 1. The era he dominated. You know what younger audiences sometimes don't fully understand. There was a period where Atif Aslam's voice was basically unavoidable. Breakup songs, road trip songs, late-night radio, college playlists, emotional movie scenes. His voice wasn't just popular. It became emotionally architectural, and that's a huge difference. Because certain artists don't simply release songs, they shape the emotional atmosphere of an era. That's exactly what happened here. And honestly, I think Bollywood underestimated how psychologically dependent audiences became on that sound. There was emotional instability in his vocals. Not weakness, instability. And weirdly enough, that's what made people trust him. Most polished singers sound controlled. Atif sounded like he was trying to survive the emotion while singing it. That tension became addictive. 2. The official explanation versus the real one. Now obviously, we can't ignore the political side. Cross-border tensions between India and Pakistan absolutely affected entertainment collaborations over the years. That's the public explanation everybody already knows. But here's my hot take. If audiences truly stop demanding something emotionally, industries move on quickly. But audiences never emotionally moved on from Atif Aslam. That's why his older songs still circulate constantly online. That's why concert clips trend instantly. That's why nostalgia around his music feels unusually intense. So I think the real story is more complicated. Bollywood didn't replace him emotionally. It replaced him structurally. Huge difference. And I think people confuse those two things all the time. 3. Why his voice felt different. Let me explain what I mean. A lot of playback singers are technically excellent. But emotional memorability, that's rarer. When Atif Aslam sang Heartbreak, it didn't sound cinematic first. It sounded personal first, almost invasive, like somebody accidentally exposing their private emotions in public. That created intimacy. And intimacy is dangerous in entertainment because audiences become deeply attached fast. Honestly, I'd compare it to certain creators online today. Even someone like Mr. Beast understands that emotional pacing matters more than pure technical perfection. Audiences remember how creators make them feel. That's the real currency. And Atif understood that instinctively before algorithms even rewarded emotional retention properly. 4. The industry changed. Now here's where the story becomes uncomfortable. Bollywood itself changed dramatically. Streaming happened. Short-form culture exploded. Music consumption became faster. Attention spans fractured. Songs increasingly became content assets instead of emotional experiences. And I think that environment naturally rewards cleaner, safer, more algorithm-friendly vocals. That sounds harsh, but listen carefully to modern music trends. Many songs today are optimized for replay clips, hooks, virality, short retention bursts. But Atif Aslam belonged to an era where listeners sat with emotion longer. That difference matters. Actually, I'd argue he represented emotional patience in music. Modern systems reward emotional immediacy instead. Completely different psychology. 5. The hidden cost of his style. There's another layer nobody talks about enough. Artists like Atif become hard to manage emotionally from an industry perspective. Because once audiences associate a voice with deep vulnerability, expectations become massive. Every song must feel meaningful. Every performance must feel real. Every comeback must justify the legacy. That pressure is exhausting. And honestly, I think some industries prefer replaceable artists now because replaceable artists are easier to control commercially. That's controversial, but I believe it. Unique voices create emotional monopolies. Industries often fear monopolies they cannot fully predict. That's why emotionally disruptive artists sometimes slowly disappear from mainstream systems, even while audiences still love them. 6. The nostalgia effect. Now here's the fascinating part. The less we hear Atif Aslam in Bollywood, the bigger the mythology becomes. That's happening right now in real time. And honestly, absence can increase emotional value more than overexposure sometimes. Modern celebrities are everywhere constantly. Interviews, podcasts, Instagram stories, brand campaigns, daily visibility. But Atif's distance created emotional scarcity. Scarcity creates longing. Longing creates nostalgia. And nostalgia is one of the strongest forces in entertainment economics. That's why older songs suddenly feel deeper years later. They become emotional time machines. 7. What I think really happened. So what's the real reason we don't hear him in Bollywood the same way anymore? Personally, I think three things collided at once: politics, industry restructuring, and changing emotional consumption habits. But underneath all three, I think Bollywood quietly drifted away from emotional risk. That's my honest opinion, and Atif Aslam represented emotional risk beautifully. His voice cracked emotionally sometimes. His delivery felt unstable. His singing sounded human before it sounded perfect. Modern entertainment increasingly rewards optimization. But human imperfection is what audiences secretly remember forever. That contradiction explains this entire story. 8. What I learned from this. Honestly, researching this made me rethink something important. Sometimes an artist doesn't disappear because people stopped loving them. Sometimes systems evolve in ways that no longer know how to fully use what made that artist special. That's different. And maybe that's why audiences still react so emotionally when Atif Aslam performs live now. Because people aren't only hearing nostalgia. They're hearing emotional honesty from an era before everything became hyper-calculated. That feeling is rare now. So when people ask, why don't we hear Atif Aslam in Bollywood anymore? I honestly think they're asking the wrong question. The better question is, why does his absence still feel so emotionally loud? Because artists only leave that kind of silence behind when they once meant something much deeper than charts. And maybe that's the final irony here. The industry moved forward technically, but emotionally, a lot of listeners still feel like something never got replaced.